Hello, everyone. It is 3:02 on the East Coast, so I'm going to get started. Welcome. My name is Jenn Diagostino. I use she, her pronouns, and I work on the impact team at Action Builder Action Network. I hope you've been enjoying Build Power so far today, but if this is your first one, thanks for coming. Let me share my screen with you here. So for those of you who were around earlier, we're going to be using Mentimeter to ask some questions like Shelley did at this morning's workshop on the sync. So you can either scan the QR code to participate or go to menti.com and use this code up here. So this workshop is going to be about tips and tricks for training leads after your organization has already onboarded to Action Builder. So take a minute to describe the option that best describes you. This will help me pick some examples as I'm showing you stuff later on in the workshop. We won't be walking through a step-by-step train the trainer, but the goal here is to help you get comfortable with some common issues that come up during onboarding, supporting new leads, organizers, or activists, folks who are just getting started, where you're the point person. So great, lots of union folks, but lots of community folks as well. It's good to see you all. Thanks for coming. Okay, so here is our agenda for today. We're going to do introductions. Already did that. I'm going to talk a little bit about some features of note that are built into Action Builder that you may want to take advantage of and encourage your leads to take advantage of if they aren't already. We'll talk about the main, like if you take one thing away from this workshop, the main strategy for onboarding new folks. And then some tips and tricks of advanced users. And we'll share some links at the end so that you can have them. So the first thing I want to ask is, what do you wish you'd known when you first started using Action Builder or when you were first introduced to it? Or if you're new to Action Builder, what would you like to learn? Because I know some folks are brand new. Example workflows, love it. Don't be shy. Events, yes. Unfortunately, my colleague Susie is not feeling well. There is an events workshop that's going to be part of Build Power that's been rescheduled for next Wednesday. We'll share that. We'll share that at the end, that link again. Awesome. Importing data, always good. Cool. Any last thoughts before we move on to the next thing? Give a thumbs up if you attended Shelley's training on the sync earlier today. Action Network data work sites. These are all awesome things, and hopefully some of what we talk about today will address this. The data import is part of our Action Builder 100 series, and we'll share a link for how to register for that training as well. Cool. Thanks everybody for sharing. Okay, the first thing we recommend is setting an admin as a contact for your campaign. So let me share here. Welcome to Action Builder. This is all fake data, as you might be able to tell from the names. Here on the need help item, you can see that the administrator contact information, by default, it is our Action Builder support information. But if you go to customize, And here on the general page, you can select any of your admins, and this will let you set someone from your organization for organizers and activists to contact from the help menu rather than Action Builder support. I am always happy to answer people's technical questions at support at Action Builder. But since you're closer to the data and you may have set up internal workflows or fields specific to your instance, you may be able to give a better answer than our general answer. So it's really helpful to be able to set this support user, and it can be any of the admins for your instance. Okay. The next thing, default queries. So this is a new feature that rolled out within the last year. You can set a saved query to be the default so that it's the first thing that anyone who logs into your Action Builder campaign will see. So I'm going to go back to the instance here. It can be changed at any time, and it's especially helpful for guiding organizers and activists when you have a big universe, but you want them to focus on a specific thing. So this could be if you're a community organizing organization, it could be showing just members. Or if you've been organizing and have an Excelsior list and you now want to just contact folks who are eligible to vote, you can limit it just to the folks who have that response. So here on the wall chart, you can create a search or you can load a saved search. So here I'm going to click load, and you can see I have a search called members only. When I click that, I load my search, and you can see my universe goes from 81 down to 44. And so here, if this were a new query, I would click save and I could get that, or I can edit an existing query. So here I'm going to go load and click the 3 dots here to edit. And I can check this box to set as the default query for all users. So now when someone comes to my instance and loads the page, the first thing they're going to see, instead of this 81, are just the existing members, and you'll see that it's just the existing members. And so this is something that you can work with your leads to coordinate for their campaigns so that their organizers, I'm training you to train them to train their organizers. It's a chain of learning to focus on what's important at any particular benchmark in a campaign. And this can be changed at any time. So here, if we click back into load and click, you can see this is at the top because it's default. If I click the 3 dots and uncheck the box, now there's not a default query anymore. So it's really easy and flexible depending on when your campaign needs to access which part of the list. And it's something that should be at the top of leads focus. Okay, the next thing to talk about is chart and trend view reporting. So chart and trend view reporting features can help your organizers and leads visualize what's happening in the turf that they're assigned and help them understand what's happening in the campaign overall. But they can sometimes, and if some of you have used it already, it can be a little tricky for new users to get the hang of at first. So I want to show a couple of examples so that you have a better sense of how this might work for your data structure, and your leads can have a sense of how to make it work for the campaign that they're doing. So here, these buttons at the top, there's the default list view, wall chart view, and trend view. And then this is the map. One of the most important things to note is that these charts will display the filtered results. So again, if I were to filter to just members only and run the query, it's going to show charts based on just members, not on the whole universe. So here we can see all the records, and I'm going to limit this instead of all folks. This is a worker organizing demo. I'm going to exclude people who are retired members, non-unit supporters, and no longer in the unit. So we're going to limit it to just existing bargaining unit members. Here, we're going to group by work site. So here by field, and if I select the field by work site, you can then see the difference between the two work sites. So that's the main use. And again, you can see these folks are filtered out. If I reset here, you can see that the folks who don't have a work site, who are not part of the bargaining unit right now, appear again. So this is just like the basic mechanics of this page that can be tricky for new leads to understand. Clicking on a color in chart view will let you drill down to the list of people who are in that category. So for example, this is the unassessed block at the Sesame Street worksite. And you can see who those people are. And again, this can help them make assignments to organizers or activists in their turf. The other thing that can be useful here, and again, I'm going to just exclude the non-bargaining unit folks for a moment. The other thing that can be confusing here is if you're doing the group by and then by. Order matters, and it can be either messy or useful depending on how you set it up. So for example, if we have a field called organizer, which is assigns an organizer to folks who are they're the first point of contact for. So if I group by organizer, I can then see, this person has this many ones, twos, threes, fours, unassessed, right? I can then group by another field, and I can do it by worksite. And that is a lot to sift through, right? So for each organizer, it then breaks it into two subgroups, one for each worksite. And it gets really messy, and it's hard to kind of be useful. But if we do it by worksite first, and then by organizer, you can see just the two work sites and then which organizers are assigned within that work site. So depending on the order that you choose your sort by, it can make a huge difference in how readable the charts are. You can also choose to graph by assessment, which is the default, or by field. And so this could be useful, for example, if we are doing authorization cards and you want to sift by that particular action, you can select some responses or all of the responses. And then again, it's sorted by or grouped by worksite. So you can see, who are the folks who refused an authorization card at this worksite, and you can see who those folks are. So really helping your leads understand what these kind of primary fields do and orders that make the most sense can go a long way to helping them feel more comfortable with Action Builder. Trend View also displays filtered results. So if I click here on Trend View, I can see kind of everyone versus if I just want to see the folks who are not in the unit currently. The most common question we get here is the difference between what does the running totals checkbox do and what are these bars showing? So running totals lets you see the overall picture of your universe. And you can see in preparation for this workshop, I added a bunch of folks. And so the universe actually grew. We got more unassessed folks, but we also got um, more ones and twos, things like that. If you uncheck the box, you can see submissions during your selected period of time. So you can see that there were 27 total assessments submitted this week. Unlike chart view, you can only see assessments and you can't click on the color blocks to drill down. That may be something for future development, but for right now, chart view has a drill down and lets you choose between assessments and responses. Trend view only has assessments and there's no drill down. You can download the CSV totals, but it doesn't have the full names. So those are the major differences and the common questions that we get from leads and new organizers who are trying to understand what this reporting does. Okay. Back to the slides. The last thing I want to talk about are these two features that are really helpful for leads. And these are on the entity settings for a campaign, and they can help them get their clean and complete data from organizers and activists they work with. So these are two tools that I don't think are used as often as they could be, that could really make a workflow work better. So I'm going to share my wall chart again. So if we go to customize and entity settings, you can do this for any entity type, but here we're going to look at people. The entity create setting allows you to choose which fields are shown on the add new form when an organizer is adding a new entity. So you can see we have worksite, job class, and organizer selected. So when I click add new, there's the general information. So English, their work information, et cetera, et cetera. And then here you can see worksite, job class, and organizer. So if you have leads who have organizers who are entering data manually this way, and there are fields that are really critical, like worksite, or what committees they're on or whatever, you can make those fields visible on the form. And so then when you create a person, those will automatically have been added. If you scroll down further in these settings to the conversation log section, this was also new in the past year, and this lets you select a handful of fields that are in use for that campaign to help organizers and activists focus on their data entry. So this is a way for leads to really say, this is what we're focusing on right now. This is what the benchmark is. This is where our campaign needs to be. And it's basically like setting to-dos in tasks, but you don't need to make those specific assignments to people. It's always available to submit following any conversation. So you can set those fields here and you can change them, or you can show your leads how to change them as the needs and benchmarks for their campaigns change. So in this example, we have assessment, actions taken, and I will talk about that in just a minute, issues, and entity note. And if I go to the wall chart and select a record, and I could add a field, I could add as many fields or as few fields as I want. So say I want to add connections as well, I can click add field and add the people and people connections. So now if I go back to the wall chart, I can then click the down caret or click into a record and click log conversation. If they're on mobile, it'll be this actions button and then log conversation. And we can track those responses. So was it in person, on the phone, or via email? And then we can track, they're a supporter. They posted on social media today. They care about these issues. We don't need to change them, and posted on social media about how great build power was while we were together. And I'm going to click save. And that will automatically save that conversation on the person's record. So if you're training leads who will then go on to train organizers or activists, this makes things much easier. Rather than having to show them how to sift through a record, go to the info tab to select the fields, go to the notes field to add a notes, go back to the profile to add an assessment, or by having to assign specific tasks with a specific list of assignments to folks. This can simplify and streamline things for your leads who are probably trying to do a lot of things to keep your campaigns moving. And then on the activity stream, they're able to see all of those things that were entered right in a row. Okay. If there are any questions, I have a lot of screens going on right now, but do feel free to ask them in the Q&A, and I'm happy to answer any questions that have come up. Okay, we're going to go back to the slides here, and I've mentioned a few times that we had some new features this year. We use a cooperative development model to identify and prioritize development for Action Builder and Action Network. And all of these features were all five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All five of these features on your screen were developed in the last year since our Build Power session. So I'm going to share more in the chat about what our cooperative development process is like, but while I do, take a minute to rank some of your favorites, because I love hearing from folks what they've enjoyed. Can this be set up for different user activists at the same time? Yes, it can be set for different user activists at the same time. Activists' user accounts are free. The log conversation fields that you choose are going to be standard across all users. You can change them at any time. But the number of users that use it, that is free, yes, and available. And there's a question, and I'm not 100% sure, but what was the feature again? I'm not sure when that was asked, but I am happy to, if you want to provide a little more, I'm happy to go through it. People love events. I love to hear that. And I'm really excited about the future development that's going to happen. I really like the saved query as well, personally. So, great. Any last minute votes? Thumb on the scale before we move on. Cool. Great. Okay. The next thing, and this is like if you only walk away with one thing that you retain from this workshop, it's try to match your campaign to your workflow so you can get organizer buy-in. And I think this is a really obvious thing and easy thing for me to say. But we have found that leads are more likely to be enthusiastic with their organizers, and organizers and activists are more likely to enter clean and consistent data when their instance is structured and their campaigns are set up so that it's part of their workflow rather than one more thing that they have to do at the end of a busy day. And we know that admins put a lot of thought into the planning. But in terms of as you're structuring your trainings and onboardings, really framing it like, how can we make this work for the work that you're doing, is key. And one of the ways is using that log conversation feature that I just showed. So I saw a question in the chat about it. Shelley is answering that, but I'll show it to you again. So if you go to the Customize tab and go to Entity Settings for people, you can go to the conversation logging and you can add the fields, the few fields that you want people to use when they're tracking conversations. And we have actually taken a lot of feedback on this feature. It comes out of the tasks and people's desire to have a quick way for folks to log those conversations. So not only can you use the log conversation link on a person's profile, so here to track that conversation, so in-person, phone, or email. The other cool thing, if you've done trainings with me before, you know that I think everything about Action Builder is cool. But the other cool thing is that these icons on the wall chart say whether a person has a piece of contact information or not. So an email address, a callable phone number, a textable phone number, or a home address. And if you click the email and click the button to email them, it will open your email clients in another window. And then it will also, so Outlook is moving slowly to open on my computer, but then it will also automatically start the log conversation dialog. So we've really worked to try to work in these shortcuts for leads to help their organizers get their data into the system. It's a good question. Okay. And I do want to shout out our marketing team who took this great photo at Netroots this year. And when I included it on the slide, it was supposed to tease the next training, but you'll have to wait until next Wednesday to hear about using events to check people into stuff. More to come. But I have a follow-up question for you now. What are the most common questions you get from organizers or leads or activists when you're training them on Action Builder? And if you haven't onboarded anyone yet and are here to learn, feel free to just give a thumbs up. Is there an app? That is a great question. That leads right into the next section, but it's a great question. Is there an app? Is there an app? Will it automatically update when someone signs a petition or integrating Action Builder and Action Network? So for folks who were not able to make it to the workshop this morning, look out for the email after the fact with a recording. Shelley did an awesome job, includes a cool worksheet for helping make sure that you have your integration set up correctly. Um, there's a built-in integration with Action Network and Action Builder and also with Catalyst. But otherwise we have an open API, so your organization can build those integrations. Bulk attendance we'll talk about in the next workshop, not right now, but soon. And one thing I want to encourage you to do and to ask Susie about next Wednesday is how to use Action Builder as a check-in at your check-in table rather than having to sign in sheets, enter it into a spreadsheet, and then upload a spreadsheet. It'll make your life so much easier. So that's a little teaser. But is there an app? Leads us right into the next question. So thank you for whoever opened me up for that lead in. Okay. Okay. So in the last section, I'm going to talk through some of the secrets of advanced Action Builder users to help leads make campaigns more manageable on the day-to-day. And the first thing has to do with the app question, and it's also a super common question we see on support all the time. Never feel bad about emailing us about this. Each partner has their own instance. So you can see here that ours is called the Impact Sandbox.actionbuilder.org. And that is our training database that we use for trainings and demos. We don't have any control over which instance shows up if you do an internet search for Action Builder login page. So if I'm gonna DuckDuckGo Action Builder login page. And here it doesn't even give you the right page, or it'll bring up, AFT. Folks who use Google often get our partners at IATSE. And it's going to tell you that your email doesn't exist. This is tied to an app, I promise. So training your leads from the start to have folks bookmark their URL as the very first thing that they do and encouraging them to highlight that as the first answer will save you issues down the line. The other thing is that we don't have a separate app that you download from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. If they download something called Action Network from those places, it is probably a betting site. Don't use it. Or use it, but you won't find your organizing data there. Our website, however, is mobile optimized. So if I shrink my screen and see my slides, and you see that it's set up to be mobile optimized. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you can save whatever the process you go through to save a link as an icon to your home screen is enabled. So if I were on a phone, I could save this and then it would be an icon on my home screen. It would look just like an app and I could click it and it would just open my browser. One thing to note here is that if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you need to use Safari to be able to save that to your home screen. If you're using Chrome or a Firefox app as your web browser, it won't let you save. It's like Apple's proprietary thing. You can use any browser down the line, but just make sure that when you're setting up the icon saved to your home screen, you're using Safari if you're on an iPhone. So that is a very long answer for your question. The next thing, if you have ever been in an action builder training session that I've led before, you will know that the action willing to / action taken structure is something that I love to recommend to admins and lead users. This is a way of structuring your info fields to keep track of who has said they'd be willing to take an action versus people who have actually taken it. So I'm going to bring the wall chart back. In this example, so let's say you're in a public pressure phase of your campaign. You're pulling together a poster of supporters or members holding up signs saying, I support this thing because XYZ. If I go to customize and info, and I switch to people, you can see we have two fields here. One for actions that they'd be willing to take, and you could say attend a rally, publish a letter to the editor, etc., take a photo, and one for actions taken, that's completed. So they took a photo, they shared a story, past tense. And this way you can distinguish between people who say they're interested. So maybe you do a phone bank, or in an earlier phase in the campaign where you haven't collected pictures yet, and those that you really have on hand. And so then if we go back to the wall chart, you can do an info search that includes everyone who said they'd take a photo and excludes everyone who already did it. Or in this case, I have a saved search. So people who said they'd take a photo but didn't. And I'm going to run my query. And so your lead can set up searches like this to make assignments of the highest priority targets easier. So here we have 3 people who said that they would take a photo but haven't yet. I'm going to click on Sarah, flag it for follow-up, and say, hey, Jen, said she'd take a photo, but didn't. Please follow up. Okay. And so it really improves your workflow and helps those leads on their day-to-day work and their day-to-day assignments and moving their turf. Okay. Another thing that leads might want to incorporate into their workflow and into their plan for organizing in their campaign is response label searchability. So on the info and connections, you can either search by field or you can start typing a response. If I have separate fields for each thing and they say yes, when I type yes, I then have to look for the small text underneath. So yes, a pledge to vote yes, or yes, a mission statement, and I need to make sure that I'm checking on the right one. But if you make your response signed off card, signed petition, signed public pledge, this makes it easier for organizers and activists to immediately find the thing that they need, rather than having to sift through a lot of yeses, nos, and maybes. So this is something that we encourage leads to think about. Again, it doesn't need to be the same for every campaign, but it is something that leads might find useful. And then the last thing that leads might find frustrating as they're getting started before they really understand Action Builder is when you have lots of campaigns in your instance that use the same field, the responses can sometimes be a bit much. And that's okay. So if we go to customize and info, and we'll switch back to people here. We can see here, I'm going to turn off the worksite field for a moment. And you can see here that there are a lot of work sites in this instance. When I check the box to re-add the field, it's going to add every response that's in your instance. And that can be really frustrating for a lead because you have to go through and uncheck all of the ones that you want to hide for your organizers. And it would be really time consuming. So the trick here, and it's something you should definitely share with leads, is that you can check just one response. So box is unchecked, box is unchecked. I'm going to look for Sesame Street. And it will turn on the field without adding all of the responses. So I can turn on my 2 work sites without having to check and uncheck everything else in the instance. So that is one of my favorite, I know I've said that a lot, tips of an advanced user. Okay. What, after having gone through all of that, after hearing from our great panelists earlier this afternoon, after hearing from Shelley with the sync this morning, what are you excited to try moving forward? Something you learned about here, anything that you heard about in any of these sessions? If you're not sure, you're not an Action Builder user, you want to give a little thumbs up. All super exciting. Good options. Yes, I love to hear that folks are learning things today. I know that we are coming up on time. Bookmarking the tool. Awesome. These are great individual forms. It's great. Is there anything else that you have questions about? I know I saw a couple of questions in the Q&A that we got to. Anything else that we didn't cover that you would like us to think about covering in future build powers or training sessions? Anything you want me to try to tackle in the last couple of minutes? These answers I'm not going to reveal, so please feel free to, you know, add whatever you need in here or give a thumbs up if you don't have anything else to ask. Thanks everybody for the thumbs ups. I love it. There's a couple of questions here about decentralized organizations, and that is a really good question. Managing multiple campaigns can be tricky, but it is totally possible, and you can set up different access levels. I'd like to share a few things in the chat. Accounts and permissions. This is probably my most shared link. This will get you started on different types of permission levels that you can set up for your users. But it is by no means complete. So there's lots of responses handling the sync. It's great. Thank you everyone so much for sharing your questions on this. Okay, a couple more things here at the end. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to share a few links in the chat. In the meantime, we have a couple of feedback questions, but I'm going to share our support documentation. You can find links to getting started, our organizing guide, um, our guide for organizers, our guide for activists and admins, lots of screenshots and videos. If you have questions that with technical support, so this doesn't seem to be working, I can't find this, how do I do this? Reach out to us at support@actionbuilder.org. It helps to include your instance URL, but it's not required. We may respond if we need that. For those of you who aren't Action Builder partners yet, but want to sign up after learning so much awesome stuff about Action Builder, or for existing partners who have contract or account questions, you can reach out to our partnerships team at join@actionbuilder.org. And then we do host our introductory Action Builder training series every Thursday that you can sign up for and follow here. They start over with 101 the first week of every month and then kind of proceeds getting more and more detailed. And then the new month starts over and it starts back over with 101. So thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, the event session that was scheduled, I think Jeff already shared a link. It was scheduled for 4:30 Eastern today. It's been rescheduled for next Wednesday. But check out that agenda and get the link to how to join that next week. And I hope we'll see you all then.